Welcome back kids to my channel. Let's learn together. And in today's video we are going to discuss the textual questions of the chapter The Tiger King. If you have watched my earlier video, I have tried to give you a kind of critical analysis of the story. And if you have read the story and if you have watched the video, then more or less you will be through with the story and it will be easier for you to follow the interpretations that I'm going to give you of the questions which are there in the textbook. And this is the NCERT textbook, so I will be referring to this particular textbook. This is the NCERT textbook that I'm referring to, and I'm just using this book to look at the questions and then I'm trying to interpret them from my point of view. I hope you are sitting with a pencil and a notebook. So as you're watching the video, please watch the video till the end so that you are able to listen to the interpretations of all the 5 questions that are present in the NCERT book. And you're able to take notes as I'm talking to you, because it's important for you to take notes, and while you sit down and write down the answers, these notes I'm sure will help you. So let us begin with today's content. Let us look at the first question. The first question is: the story is a satire on the conceit of those in power. How does the author employ the literary device of dramatic irony in the story? Right? So the first part of the question, if you notice well, the first part of the question is a statement, is a kind of idea that has been extracted by the critic, whoever the critic is over here. And idea has been extracted after reading the story. Now you as a reader has to support this particular statement by finding out the instances from and the events, instances and events and examples from the textbook, and you need to support the first idea that has been presented to you. Let us look at the first statement once again, and it is: the story is satire on the conceit of those in power. First of all, understand whether you agree with this statement or not. Well, of course, we agree with this statement because we know that king, the Tiger King over here, he was so powerful, or he made himself so powerful, or he made use of the power that came naturally to him by the virtue of being born into a royal family, that he utilized all his power, he used all his power to kill the tigers, as many as he could, and he killed 99 tigers. Okay, so of course he was using the power in taking away the life of an animal which could not uh, defend himself against the power of a king. This you must understand, right? So the story is a satire on the conceit of those who are in power. So there is this sense of pride which is naturally instilled in the people who belong to the royal background, or in today's language, people, we might not have many people of the royal background, but we still have the people who are economically really well, and such people tend to have a kind of sense of pride within themselves. And this sense of pride is not used in a positive way. Most of the time this sense of pride is used in oppressing and suppressing other people, especially the subordinates, especially those who are less privileged than them. So at that time, when we are talking about, royalty was very much in fashion, you could say, or it was very much the system of the times, of those times. It was one of the governance system of India, because story is set in pre-independent time. So you see that these royal people, how they use their power to kill innocent animals. And not just that, there are a variety of ways in which we find that the king goes unreasonably unreasonable in his approach towards his minions, towards his subordinates, towards the people in his office, towards his own people in the kingdom, which actually makes him quite an unpopular king. He is not really a very popular king amongst his own people. Okay, so it's a satire on those, on the conceit of those who are in power. Well, yes, of course, it's a satire, because if you read the poem, if you read the story properly, you find there is a satirical undertone always. There is that humorous elements, and there is this elements which makes you laugh at times, and you know that actually what author is trying to do is to pinpoint, or just to point out the mistakes or the follies of the human nature, and especially those who are in power. It's not always everybody, but he is basically criticizing those people who are in power, right? So how does the author employ the literary device of dramatic irony in the story? First of all, understand what irony is. Irony is a poetic device, or is a kind of literary device which is used by authors, poets, or by any kind of literary genius. They generally use this device to mean what they exactly do not write. Okay, so here what happens is that the meaning that is being given or conveyed is exactly opposite to what is being expressed by writing. For example, they could just write that the king was too wise and the king was too good, but then after a certain time, certain instances would be offered to you which will tell you that the king is intellectually not really good or not very superior. For example, go back to the story, the poem that you had read in the last year's English textbook, which was the tale of a Maran king. A Tale of a Melon King, you find about how the story begins with the characteristics, one of the very prominent characteristics of King's personality, which is that he is a very just and a placid king. Okay, these are the lines which are continuously repeated throughout the poem. The purpose is to, by very importantly, point out the fact that this is the only quality that probably king does not have. The king does not have a sense of justice. The king is not a placid king. He's very impulsive actually, and he takes up a decision very impulsively of just hanging those who, because of whom his crown fell down, right? So he is definitely not just a somebody who believes in the idea of justice, and definitely not placid at all. So this is how the author or a poet would employ this particular device to tell you exactly what which is not being expressed, or exactly the contrary of what is being expressed in writing. Okay, so how does he use this? So do you find there are elements of irony in this story? Well, there are numerous elements of irony. First of all, the title itself is extremely ironic. So when you begin writing the answer, you can begin telling about how the title of the story itself is extremely ironic. The title of the story is Tiger King. So supposedly, Tiger King should reflect the strength of a king who was like tiger like, who was as courageous and strong and good and agile like a tiger. But then you find that the king actually ends up all using all his energies only killing a tiger, and finally getting killed by a wooden tiger. So the name Tiger King he acquired by killing many tigers, but do you really feel he's as courageous as a tiger? Because a courageous person, a brave person, does not really believe in taking away life. A courageous person will inevitably ensure that he is able to contribute something positive to the life of others, and not by killing them. Nobody becomes courageous and brave by killing people. Okay, so this is the first irony that is being presented to us in the form of the title itself. Then there are other variety of titles which are variety of other ironic instances which have been used. So for example, just go back to the just go back to the story and see at how he started talking right in the beginning of his beginning of his life itself. So that was something which is not possible, and a 10-day child cannot talk. Then if you move on ahead, you find about, there are variety of irony that has been used. For example, he uses a gun to shoot a tiger. So that itself is ironic in a way that how much courageous he is. So he is using a weapon to kill an animal, which is of course important, but then the whole somewhere down the line, the whole question is about why to kill an animal. If he's so courageous, then he should live his life equally. The whole idea of him being a courageous person is very much questioned by the fact that right from the very early beginning of his life itself, he is extremely uh, concerned about somehow refuting the prophecy that had been done about his life. So there is, deep down, there is a fear. Of course, there is a fear of death, a fear of death, that he might be killed by a tiger. And in order to just get away from that fear, he keeps on killing various tigers. He kills 99 tigers. So was using his power not to improve the life of others, but he used his power only to safeguard his own life. This is also an irony. Then when this there was this British officer who came to Pratibandhapuram and he wanted to kill a tiger. uh, you find that the king is negotiating with the British officer in a very you don't find that a very courageous way of negotiation. That there is we don't expect him to wage a war against him, but at least he should have some dignity, and he should have had used his power over there as an Indian prince against a foreign conqueror. But instead of that, he just ended up presenting lakhs and lakhs of rupees of these diamond rings which were worth of lakhs and lakhs of rupees, and he just presented it to the good ladies of the British officer. So that is also once again a irony that the writer is employing to tell us about how courageous the king is. So it is of course a satire. If he's so courageous, then why couldn't he have actually challenged the British officer in some way? But instead of doing that, he, in order to save his own kingdom, he has to negotiate. So that is also an irony on his power. Then lastly is the death, the manner of his death. He dies by a infection in his body which was caused by a wooden tiger and not by a real tiger. So this is also, in spite of being royal king, he could not actually, he just utterly failed in saving his life. He could not save himself. And that is why that is something that caused his death. And there is also a satire done the way he administrate, although there's hardly any incident of his showing any administration. But then we know that he keeps on firing people out. He levies extra or double the taxes on the people of his own kingdom, so which actually makes him an unpopular king. And this finally ends up giving paving way for his own death. Probably if he would have been a good king, the surgeons would have somehow decided or somehow would have helped him to recover. But instead, because of his unpopularity, the surgeons also are not very interested in making him getting back to life. And that is why they call the operation successful after the death of the king, right? So there are these of literary devices, literary device of irony, dramatic irony, which is being used. If you are able to find out more instances, please find them out and write them out in your answer. So let us move on to the next one. What is the author's indirect comment on subjecting innocent animals to the willfulness of human beings? So in a very satirical way, what he's doing is he's trying to present to you there are variety of issues. First of all, he talks about the superiority of human being. Okay, by the virtue of being human beings, or the virtue of being homo sapiens, and because we have got an advanced brain, we have been able to master, we have been able to conquer complete planet. Now this has not just something which has supported our own living. If this would have been only it would still have been fine. But then we have also becoming an obstacle, we have been becoming an obstacle in the lives of other species who have equal claim on this planet. They are in no way less occupants of this planet. They have equal claim on this planet, on the resources of the planet, on the security of their lives, and the dignity and the survival that they should be allowed to have naturally. So first of all, what is then author's indirect comment on subjecting innocent animals to the willfulness of human beings? First of all, whenever human beings kill animals, the fight or the struggle is never equal, because human beings are always equipped with some kind of weapons which animals do not. That is one thing. Next important thing is, that is the first point that you could include. Second important point is the indirect comment that he is making is, author is making, is that how these animals are getting killed only for the game and the pleasure and the pride of the royal people, or of the people those who are in power. right? So animals are nobody, but then they are just some living beings which are, for example, they have to just be at the mercy of human beings. So whenever and whatever human beings feel, if they feel like killing them, it is very easy for them to kill these innocent animals. So as I told you, they have the equal claim on the so resources of on the space and the resources of this planet, but we don't allow them that space and resource. We don't even allow them a proper life. We just kill them because we want to look great, we want to prove ourselves and people like ourselves in the society courageous. So in for example, that British officer, he was just fond of killing tigers and getting themselves photographed, keeping his leg over the carcass of the tiger's skin. So what author is trying to again make, he's trying to make a comment on the vanity of human beings, on the silly pride of human beings, but does not have any concrete or any substantiality to it, right? So to whom are we going to be proud pride to whom are we going to show this pride to? People like us. So it does not have anything concrete in it. Okay, this is something which is extremely shameful, this is something which is extremely inhuman and ignoble. Okay. Just write down about how this whole idea of hunting game, which was actually used in past and probably somewhere in present also, it has been used by many people only to show or to improve their pride, and this has actually led to the extinction of tigers are just very few left over in this country, and they have to be supported, they are living with the supported protection of the government, which is yes, which is extremely you know uh, disappointing and painful to know. uh, there is just one thing that I would like to say here, which you might not include in the answer while you're writing the answer, but you must know that, um, to improve your knowledge. There are variety of tribal communities which are still living in this world, who are miles and years, just miles and miles and years away from the civilizations that, technological superiority and the civilizations that human beings have made. For example, if you go towards Andaman and Nicobar Islands, you will find there's this tribe called Jarwa. Now, these are people who stay in semi-naked state, and they have their own language, they have their own way of living, which are still pristine and extremely primitive. So, there have been times in past when so-called civilized people like you and me, who go to school, get educated, are properly clothed, we work, we have made our own organizations, these people have had to become extremely interested in knowing about their life, and in an effort to do that, so many people of those tribal communities have been killed, have been infected, because since they're still living with nature, since they're still living on the very basic needs by the nature, all their needs are met only by nature. Are not the manufacturers, they've still not become manufacturers, they've still not become producers in the modern sense. Whatever they need, whether it's about their clothing, whether it's about housing, whether it's about eating, whatsoever are their needs, they are only met by nature. So the civilized people have often intruded in their way of life, and the kind of life that they've been living, they don't have the kind of immunity that we all have, because we have a kind of we have developed a kind of artificial immunities in our body with the help of vaccinations and all that, but they don't have that facilities yet still available to them. So therefore they are very their immunities is of a different order altogether than if you look at those people who are civilized. So by coming in contact with the civilized people, most of the women and the children were getting infected, and in fact so many people were killed, so many people were killed that government had to finally give them protection. Now a certain area of those islands is actually just been preserved for them, and nobody from the outside world is allowed to enter those areas. These people, these tribal people, may come outside, and they sometimes do also, because now probably they're also changing with time, but for a very very long time they just decided to keep their privacy to themselves, and they were not ready to interact with people because the interaction was highly negative to them. It was just killing them, it was reducing their population, and there's just few of them left, few thousands of them have been left, probably not even thousands, some hundreds of them are left. So if government does not provide protection, then probably these people would have been killed by now by the civilized people. This is exactly what we are doing to the lives of animals also. We don't consider them worthy enough to live, and this is what exactly Kalki is trying to point out. But then he is making very indirect comment, he's not saying anything directly, and for making indirect comment he's t- taking the help of devices like irony. So by saying something that, oh, the king is very great and courageous, he wants the writer, he wants the reader to actually pose a question on the courageousness and on the powerfulness of the human beings, how powerful they are, because they go with their own, guns and other weapons which they have evolved with time, and they just kill those people, animals who are extremely innocent and completely defenseless. It is easy to kill an animal with a gun, isn't it? So then he's trying to make the indirect comment on the sense of superiority that human beings have developed with time, because they are just endowed with some kind of intellectual superiority. Their sense of power that they have developed, their sense of pride, vanity that they have developed, with which they sometimes have become so, self-proclaimed great people that they find themselves worthy enough to take away the life of another living species, which is not right. So this whole pride of the human beings is something which is being severely criticized and questioned in the story, that you must point out in your answers. Let us look at the next question, question number 3. How would you describe the behavior of Maharaja's minions towards him? Do you find them truly sincere towards him, or are they driven by fear when they obey him? Do we find a similarity in today's political order? Now, there are 3 parts of this question. I'm going to go through each and every part one by one. Let us look at the first question. How would you describe the behavior of Maharaja's minions towards him? How was the behavior of Maharaja's minions? Minions means those who are under him or those who are subordinate to him. So, what are they doing? Well, how do you find the behavior of Maharaja's minions? Maharaja's minions were very obedient to him. They would always listen to him and would never question back the king. So for them, whatever the king would say would become something which had to be followed, and which could never be opposed or questioned. So how was the behavior of Maharaja's minions towards him? They were extremely obedient to him, towards him, and they would never question him. This is how you are going to write down the answer. Then, do you find them truly sincere towards him, or are they driven by fear when they obey him? See, a Maharaja or a king is actually the leader of his own community. Okay, now there are certain qualities that a leader should have. Now, as a leader, the Maharaja or the king or any person who is heading a particular community should always think well of his own people. He has the power. This power has been given to him by the people. Therefore, this has to be invested, the power should be invested for the benefit of the subordinates and not for exploiting them. Okay, this is important. A leader should have a vision of where he wants to take his people towards. He should have the resources, he should have a competent mind to make right strategies for his community, and he should ensure the safety and security of each and every member of the community. Now, if you take these 3 or 4 qualities into your mind, which one do you think the Tiger King has in him? I don't think, even if he has even the 1 or 2 of these qualities, he doesn't have any of these qualities in his character. All his life, he's just been obsessed with somehow getting away from the prophecy that had been made at the time of his birth. Okay, so do you find, so if this is the king, do you not think that the minions or the people under him are going to recognize him or will understand what kind of a character the king has? So definitely, since the king was powerful, all these minions were basically driven by fear and not by sincerity, because the king does not have all these leadership qualities in him. So they were driven by fears. So there's only one quality that this particular king has, and that one quality that he has is that he has power. And this power is also not something which has been self-acquired. This has actually been power which has been given to him naturally, because he was born into a royal family and he has not done anything extra to get this power also. Right? So with the help of this power, since he has lots of money and resources, with the help of this power, he can make or break anyone. It is very clear. And therefore, these people are obedient to him for the fear that if they are not obedient to him, then they would be mistreated by the king, which can hamper their life, which can, totally and substantially change their life for the worse. Therefore, when he says that, do you think that they're truly sincere towards him? No, they're not sincere towards him. Or are they driven by the fear they obey him? Yes, they are driven by the fear. Okay, now what is the instance which tell you that they were not sincere towards him and only driven by the fear? The fact that, at the end when he has to be operated for the infection that he had received in his hand because of the piercing of that wooden sliver in his hand. When that operation was happening, at that time, what happened was that the surgeons uh, were in consent with the ministers, and at that time, uh, they operate him in such a manner that he dies, and they find this operation a successful operation because the king has been dead. And this clearly shows that how desperately they all wanted to get rid of the king. And this came to them, towards them, in the form of an opportunity where it was very much easy for them, this problem of his, or this need to get treated or operated upon, became a way through which they could easily remove him from their lives. And this is what they did. If they would have really been sincere, they would have done anything to save his life, but this is not the case actually. Do we find a similarity in today's social and political order? Well, yes, there is a stark similarity. This power hierarchy is very much present in today's political order also. And I'm talking about the word hierarchy. It simply means a kind of a pyramidal system of power or of positions, which, according to which the one with the least power will be situated at the lowest pedestal of the hierarchy. Then the one with little more power will be little above, and then so on and so forth. And the one who is at the top of the hierarchy is the one who is the most powerful one. Hmm? So in an office, for example, power hierarchy could be like, first of all, the at the lowest could be the group D staff of the particular institution, and then could be the clerical staff, and then could be the people in the administration system, and then could be the one person who could be the head of even of the administrative officers. He could be one of the most important and powerful administrative officers. So this kind of a hierarchy is existing. It exists in a political system. And yes, of course, there are a lot of people, there are a lot of minions, there are a lot of subordinates who do so many, who their work is just driven by the fact that they are able to please their superiors, because superiors have the powers. And when the superior officers have the power, with the power they can, as I told you, make or break anyone. Therefore, the subordinates will always direct their actions in such a way that they are able to please their superiors. And superiors also will use the power accordingly. Those who are giving them pleasure, those who are listening to them, those who are very obedient, will get the maximum benefit. Right? So this kind of political system is very much present in today's scenario also. Uh, then let us look at the fourth question. Can you relate instances of game hunting among the rich and the powerful in the present time that illustrate the callousness of human beings towards wildlife? Well, there are definitely instances of callousness where we have seen the rich and the powerful indulging into this kind of game hunting instances. You can find it for yourself. Or the one very famous example is that of this Bollywood superstar Salman Khan, who was, very much has been a part of this. Black bear hunting case, and he's still probably been he's been put on trial for this particular case. And then you realize that being one of the most powerful powerful in a way that he is, of course, economically is very well off, and he's one of the most popular figures. So of course that has, of course, instilled in him a sense of pride. He knows who he is, and therefore he could. Whereas people like you and me, of a little low social order, might just think about the legal complications that might involve us. So we know that this man was completely aware of the legal implications of this, but then he still went ahead because he knew that he would be probably able to come out of it, or he knew that he would never be caught, or he thought that he was just worthy enough to do this, right? So this is definitely example of callousness of the human beings, because there was absolutely no sensitivity involved for the life of other living creature, and there is a lot of pride and vanity involved, while they could, there is this feeling of being able to easily come out of the legal implications of such an act. So this is one example, but if you find more, if you have any other more examples of such nature in the present times, please do put them in writing. The next is, we need a new system for the age of ecology, a system which is embedded in the care of all people and also in the care of earth and upon all life upon it. Discuss. Well, yes, of course, this is a new system of age of ecology. Although the one who has made these questions is calling it a new system of the age of ecology, but one must understand that this age of ecology and the need of it has been as primitive as there has been, as primitive as the earth has been, because we could have never lived without the support of earth. We could have never lived without the support of nature. It is impossible for any human being, for a human civilization to imagine to live in isolation. This is absolutely not possible, and this should not be done in that way. We cannot live on our own. So there is definitely an important need for all of us to live in tune with, or to live in a very symbiotic relationship with the nature, because if we do not do that, then the existence of human civilization must just become extinct, as tigers are becoming, or as dodo has become, this bird dodo has become extinct. So if we want to save our existence, and if you want to improve the quality of life that we have, we definitely need to have a very good relationship with the uh, with the living species around us, and of course with the environment that we have. I'll just give you a very small example to make this understand to you. um, since the time of lockdown, which has approximately been 2 months now, approximately it has been 2 months for the lockdown, and you can see that there is this decrease in the people going out on the roads. There is this, a tremendous decrease in the usage of vehicles, a tremendous decrease of human domination also, because most of us are now just keeping ourselves, at least 60 to 70% of us are strictly keeping ourselves within homes. We're not going out. So there are few people who need to go out. They are institutional people, and there are other people also who have to kind of migrate from one place to another. But most of us are staying within homes. Most of us are not using any vehicles. No air services are available. No train services are available. Very less transport facilities are available, and you can already see within 2 months, you can already see the change in the environment. You can see a very much decrease in the temperature also. Otherwise, by the time it would be May, June and July, the temperature would approximately be going up to 40 to 45 degrees Celsius. But this is not happening this time. It is the summers of this year, after a really really long time, are quite comforting, and they're comforting because of the kind of I would say a kind of support that has been shown by human civilization, even if it is out of fear, because we want to save ourselves against this invisible enemy. Even if it is out of fear, there is an improvement, a very clear improvement which is being seen. So we are now, at least, you know we are now learning to live in a symbiotic relationship with the nature, even if it is out of fear. I'm once again saying, no, we have not become that mature to do it for ourselves, but we are doing it because we are in fear, because we want to save our own lives. And that is why most of the factories are shut down. There is no air pollution. Since there is no air pollution, since most of the factories are shut down, water pollution has also been decreased, because not that kind of a garbage has not been thrown into oceans and the rivers. And you can see how, you know, every second day or third day you are able to hear a news of some animal coming from a wild towards the cities. Why are they coming towards cities? Now they're feeling safer, because these human beings are no more out there on the roads, so they feel safer, and they have started coming, which shows that how vibrant, the animal life and the bird life are becoming more vibrant. And not just that, in fact, the ozone layer with has also started to recover. If you are in touch of the news, then you would know that the damage that we had created to ozone layer, which is extremely important layer which saves us from the ultraviolet rays of the sun, and are also getting uh, it is also getting recovered, it is also getting regenerated, which is a good thing for human civilization. So this is how we learn to live in a symbiotic relationship with nature. And yes, we have reached a point in history where it is absolutely important for us to live uh, in a healthy relationship with other living species, and with, because this is not just for their good, this is also important for our own future. If we don't want to become like tigers, extinct, then we have to learn to live friendly with other living beings and with our own environment, right? So this is all I had to talk to you about, all the 5 questions. Please do put them in writing, and if there's still any doubts, ask me. And there's one thing that I wanted to tell you about. There was one question that I wanted to discuss to you about the importance of title of the story, which I have discussed, I think at length. I have discussed. If there is a question on the importance of the title uh, of the story, then you can talk about how ironic the title is, and how is it that it is ironic. You can explain that also. If you still have any doubts, please put them in questions in the comment section below. I'll answer your questions either here on YouTube itself, or I'll get in personal touch with you and answer your questions. Thank you so much, children, for watching this video. Have a wonderful day ahead.